The walls are closing in on Richard Masters. From the backlash from Everton supporters to the political scrutiny that has devastated his handling of the case against the Blues, this has only exposed his own deficiencies.
You don't know what you're doing.
And now Premier League sources are starting to leak that Masters is incompetent and needs to be removed. Masters' desperate attempts to try and prove the Premier League's strength and legitimacy has instead only served as evidence of just how incapable the Premier League is at self-governance. Because of him, independent regulation has now become unavoidable.
Everton are frustrated at the process that their club has gone through, and they worry about unfairness.
The world of football was in shock when the harshest ever punishment was cruelly given to Everton in November.
I was like, 10 points. If Everton had gone into administration, they would have got 9 points.
Suspiciously, this sanction happened just 10 days after the government announced plans for a football regulator for the first time in 140 years. It plunged a club that was beginning to make sustainable progress into a relegation fight. A sanction which intended to encourage financial responsibility will only hinder Everton's movement towards that goal. A contradiction that only highlights the issues in how this case has been handled. The response of Evertonians has been staggering. Everyone associated with the club has long been aware of the power of a fan base that has dragged a club mired in chaos to Premier League safety twice in recent years. But the organisation and coherence of its response to the deduction has been immense and caused clear discomfort to the Premier League and some of its closest partners. Sky Sports, for instance, will not have enjoyed the scrutiny applied to itself, as it has battled over whether to display protests at games it was showing, or whether to publish interviews in which Andy Burnham questioned the actions and integrity of the Premier League. It is that political response that has caused the most hurt to the Premier League. The organisation has sought to play down the arguments of those who have intervened, including regional mayors Burnham and Steve Rotheram. This case was an opportunity to strengthen claims. It can regulate its clubs without outside intervention, as calls grew for independent regulation. Everton, a club that has not been run well over the period in question, presented a chance to show government that the Premier League had the maturity, competence and strength to make its clubs operate sensibly. In the months since November, the unanswered questions surrounding the handling of Everton's case have only grown, as more scrutiny has been applied. The silence over how that punishment was calculated was extraordinary. The words that were not written were the most damaging part of a process that has only become more excruciating. For Premier League Chief Executive Richard Masters and those around him, Everton provided the Premier League with a chance, and the Premier League blew it. The greatest points deduction in top-flight history has been handed out without explanation by an organisation that is seeing its integrity come under fire from politicians of all backgrounds and allegiances. It has been embarrassed by the passion of supporters, desperate to protect their beloved club. None of this is to say that Everton didn't have a minor overspend due to interest costs on the new stadium and the mitigating factors that caused it. But the Blues deserve to be dealt with under a fair and transparent process and for any penalty to be proportionate. But it's obvious that hasn't been the case. It's evident Everton are the scapegoats, intended to prove that Richard Masters is capable of regulating the Premier League himself. But it's clear he's in the midst of a fight he has already lost.